So I went from banned freelancer making $42 an hour to 40K a month with my sales agency in a matter of few months, doing only two things. And the second one is an interesting one that everyone misses and nobody talks about because you actually have to do the thing in order for you to get it and be in a position to talk about it. So in this short, concise video, you'll get exactly these two things to finally remove all your confusion about real scale. And it's not going to be some productivity hack or just work harder bullshit, but it's uncommon wisdom, the real levers that create compounding results, the kind of thing most people spend their whole life but never see it because they're too busy chasing the next shiny idea. So let's get into it. So both of these two things intertwine together beautifully, and you can't really do one without the other if you really want scale and want that financial freedom or location freedom, whatever you want in life. But once you see how they connect, everything is going to click for you. So the first one is make your environment so frictionless that it allows you to do the number one needle lever, which is systematic outreach. Obviously, as I always say, if 90% of your day is not systematic outreach, then anything else as you do doesn't matter. So look, if you want clients, if you want that 40K a month sales automation or sales agency, you need clients that pay you 3 to 5 to 10K, which means you need to talk to people who can become clients. That's it. That's the whole game. You can't get clients without talking to potential clients. So you can't get clients watching YouTube tutorials. You can't get clients perfecting your offer or endlessly scrolling on LinkedIn where every second of your day is you second guessing. Should I do LinkedIn outreach? Should I go to Upwork? Should I sell that thing or that thing, that automation or that sales system? You get clients by reaching out to people who have the problem you solve. But here's why most people fail at this. They do outreach when they feel like it. Then nothing for 3 days. They get distracted by building their website or learning a new tool or watching someone else's YouTube system build. That's not systematic. That's random. And at that point, you just gotta really ask yourself, do you actually want the money, the success, or just saying that because everyone else is saying just start your own business? So either be an actual entrepreneur or just be an entrepreneur. So what does systematic means? Well, every single day, 90% of your time is spent reaching out to potential customers. Not 50%, not when I have time, 90%. Because here's the math. If you reach out to 300 qualified people per day and 2% reply positively, well, that's 2 conversations. Do that for 30 days, that's 60 conversations. So even if you close just 10% of those, that's 6 new clients. Charge 3K for each and you're already at 18K a month. And that was in 30 days. But if you only do outreach, sometimes you're reaching out to maybe 5 people per week. That's like, what, 20 per month? Maybe 1 to 2 replies, 0 clients. See the difference? Volume creates results, but systematic volume creates consistent results. So if systematic outreach is what actually gets you the 40K a month, the question becomes, why doesn't everyone just do it? And the answer is dead simple, because it's boring. And boring creates friction. But you gotta understand that the boring things in life, when done consistently, is what actually makes money and creates exponential success. And I can assure you that it's actually the case from someone who had just made 180 grand last month. So you know you should do outreach, yet you do not do it. You deep down know that's the right moves without even me saying it, yet you're still not doing it. So how do you consistently do it? Well, going back to the first point, make your environment so frictionless that it allows you to do the number one needle lever, which is systematic outreach. Meaning, build an environment where outreach becomes the easiest thing you do all day. So what does that look in practice, Saad? Well, it's not complicated, but it requires you to think about removing every single point of resistance. Here's what I mean. Most people wake up and think, I should probably do some outreach today. Then they open their laptop and immediately hit 15 decision points. Who should I reach out to? Where do I find their info? What should I say? Should I personalize this? Do I have a good subject line? Wait, did I already message this person? All of that is friction. All of that makes you not want to do it. Another thing is that you wake up and you immediately start quote unquote learning. You think that by learning more, you're going to find the hidden tree of cash. Then you fall down the rabbit hole of OpenNA10, Make.com, and following the video number 33 about some random guru trying to convince us that he made $1 billion last month selling some crazy AI agents or infrastructure. Then you immediately feel like you're losing, when in reality, you're just consumed by shiny idea syndrome and attracted to the hype, because the cold hard truth is that all those shiny systems, automations that most show on YouTube isn't what actually sells in the real world, because in the real world, these systems make $0 and it's all for views. But that's a topic for another video. So to fix this, you set up a system once so you never have to think again. Your templates are already written. Your workflow is so simple you could do it half asleep. You do the same work in the same place every single day. You follow the same routine every single day. You have no distractions, which is super important. So you can actually focus on for at least like 30 minutes without panicking. So when you sit down, there's no thinking, no decisions, just executing, just focusing on the task at hand, just play. That's frictionless. And when it's frictionless, you actually do it every single day for like 90% of your day. Okay, now you might be saying, okay, I'm doing systematic outreach, Saad, in a frictionless environment, but now what? How does this get me to 40K? Now, here's where it gets interesting, guys. Most people think if they just do systematic outreach every single day, eventually they'll hit 40K. And they're wrong. And let me explain, because volume alone doesn't guarantee results. You know the Hormozy quote, volume negates luck? Yeah, there is some truth to it, but it's incomplete. Because volume without consciousness just gives you a high volume failure. It's missing the other half. Volume creates data, but only if you're paying attention. Volume alone just means you'll fail faster if you're doing the wrong thing. Everybody knows this, because volume creates opportunity, but iteration creates results. You can do so much volume and get nothing and get nowhere. So what's the difference between someone who does outreach and stays broke and someone who does outreach and scales to 40K a month? Well, that's the second thing. And this is the one that nobody talks about, because you can't really understand why this matters until you're actually doing the volume, which is why most people teaching this sort of stuff can't teach it. They're not in the trenches actually doing it themselves. So the second thing is consciousness iteration through documentation. And I have this little cute graph for you, which is you do systematic outreach, then you gather data. So this data generates patterns and information, and you document. So you write down what's working, and then you iterate. And this creates compounding results. Now, let me just explain it in very, very simple terms. And the reason I want to explain is because I know it sounds abstract and kind of mystic. So let me break it down in simple terms. When you're doing systematic outreach every single day, talking to people, having conversations, talking to decision makers, being in a rich environment, because that's literally a rich environment, something is really happening. You start to notice patterns. You're generating data. Your unconscious mind is gathering information, yet your conscious mind is still on autopilot. But most people don't actually see it as data. They just see it as work. So they talk to a few people, a couple people were interested, and they move on to the next day, and they do it again. So same thing, same results month after month. So that's volume without consciousness. Now, here's what consciousness actually looks like. You talk to 10 people, 2 of them are actually interested, 1 was not. You don't just say, great, and I'll move on. You identify the patterns. What made those 2 people interested? What industry were they in? What problems did they mention? What questions did I actually ask that made them lean in? What was their situation? What made that one person say no? Were they the wrong person from the get-go? Did I lose them at some specific point? What objection did they have? So you write it down, you document it, like you document everything. After a week, you look at your data and you will notice patterns. Oh, the outreach message was sent on Tuesday and got more replies. Oh, people in this industry respond way faster than the other industry. Now, you're not just doing outreach. You're iterating. You're getting smarter every single day. And that's when the compounding starts. So you talk to people who look like the 2 people were interested. You ask the question that made them lean in early in the conversation. You don't do the things that made you lose. So at this point, what is really happening, my dear viewer? Well, you're not just doing smarter outreach. Now we have data. After a month, you have patterns. After 3 months, you know exactly who to talk to, what to say, and how to spot interest in the first 30 seconds. So that's consciousness iteration. Now, let me give you an example. Let's say person A does outreach for 90 days with no documentation. same percentage of interest. Let's say it's like 10%. Person B does outreach for 90 days with documenting everything. So they start at 10%. By month 2, it's 20%. By month 3, it's 35%. So same volume, completely different results. And here's why nobody talks about this. Because you can't teach it unless you're doing it. You can't document patterns if you're not generating volume in the first place. So you can't iterate if you're not conscious of what's actually happening. So this isn't a framework, this isn't a template, it's practice. And it only works if you're in the trenches, doing both things simultaneously. And now you see why these two things intertwine together. Thing 1, systematic outreach, creates the volume. Thing 2, consciousness, iteration, turns that volume into compounding results. Without thing 1, you have nothing to document. Without thing 2, your volume never improves. Together, that's how you get to 40K a month. All right, guys, so let's bring this all together. The two things that actually will take you to 40K a month. Number 1, make your environment so frictionless that it allows you to do the number 1 needle lever, which is systematic outreach. Not when you feel like it, actual systematic outreach every single day. Number 2 is consciousness iteration through documentation. You're generating data with all that volume, but only if you're paying attention, documenting patterns, and iterating based on what's actually working. These two things intertwine. Volume without consciousness keeps you stuck. Consciousness without volume gives you nothing to learn from. Together, that's how you compound results and scale to 40K a month. Now, here's what's going to happen. Most people actually won't do this. They'll watch this video, yeah, this makes sense. They're gonna be like, yeah, this makes sense. And go back to watch and make tutorials and chasing the next shiny AI tool. They'll do outreach for 3 days, not document anything, see no immediate results, and quit. Then they will convince themselves that there's a shortcut somewhere else, some hidden framework, some perfect template, and they will stay stuck at like 1 to 2K a month, wondering why everyone else is scaling and they're not. But if you actually do this, if you build a frictionless environment, if you do the systematic outreach every single day, if you document and iterate every single thing, everything changes. It's not complicated, it's just boring and systematic. And boring plus systematic is what makes money. And in talking to hundreds of beginners, freelancers, and entrepreneurs, in fact, some of my friends, I'm actually helping them scale right now. Some of them are actually closer to that 50K a month. If you notice, there's like dozens of podcasts in this channel, and most of them are now approaching a new level of income. And that could be you. They are doing exactly this, starting from zero, same two things. It works if you actually do it. That's it. 2 things. Now you know. So as I always say, get out there. I believe in you, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.